Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Econobox Garage. In the previous two videos, you'll have seen that I got started on rebuilding the side curtains. The goal for this episode is to get those side curtains finished and ready for use on the car. Before I get started though, I just thought I'd let you know that from this episode, which I'm posting in the middle of October, I'll be posting bi-weekly rather than my usual weekly until the end of the year. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy this week's video. One of the things I want to do on the plexiglass panels is smooth the cut edge out as much as possible. And on the sliding one, I want to soften the edge of where it meets the felt so it's not as sharp or reduce the chance of it damaging the felt. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off sanding it with 220 on a little block. And then I'm going to 400, and then I'm going to 600, and then I'm going to 1000, and to clean that all off. And then I have some headlight lens restore plastic polish that I'll be using just to clean the edge up. And that seems to be doing a really good job. So I'm going to finish that up, and then I'll get to the next stage, which will be gluing the felt into the tracks and then getting these panels installed in the frames. Well, I'm not too sure how well this is going to show up on the video, but I've gone through with different levels of sandpaper and then with a bit of polish, and the edges has come up really quite nice. I just rounded these edges off a little bit. I'm going to do the bottom edge in a moment here, but I'm very happy with how this is turning out. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So I'll just flip this over, do the other edge, and then we'll get to gluing the felt into the frame. So next up on the agenda is to get the new felt track put into the space on the frame. Now this basically forms a U-shaped channel. I'm going to do this with one hand. So that goes in the channel like that, and then the sliding panel just goes back and forth on that. That stops it from rattling around and gives it a little bit of friction to hold it in whatever position you put it in. So I'm going to use some contact cement, and I'll just use some Q-tips to get it down into the bottom and a little bit along the side. The felt goes all the way around the whole perimeter, because when the sliding panel is wide open, it does go all the way to this end. Basically, I'm looking at this from the outside, so that sliding panel fits on that inside track, and then we'll go back and forth the full length of the frame. Then the fixed panel comes to about here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to double check that my felt is going to go in there. Something like that. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take some of my contact cement. Grab a Q-tip, and I'm going to start just going around putting some contact cement on. I'm just going to do it on the metal part. I don't think I need to do it on both sides. I've gone through and I've cleaned out the slot. I'll just spread that in, and we're going to do a little section at a time so I can get this. I'm getting a little bit on the sides of that groove and some in the bottom, and I'll just put that there. And then just going to take a scrap of my cutoff. Let's put this in here, and I'm going to use that to push the felt in if I need to. And I'm going to push it against the side and make sure it's all the way down into the bottom. Now I did clean out the groove, before I start putting the glue in. And this seems to be working very well. So we'll just continue going all the way around. Now, one thing you want to make sure is whatever glue you are using will work with fabric and metal. I was looking at some Gorilla Glue, and it was just for non-porous, so it wouldn't have worked very well with the cloth or with the felt. So there's the first section done. And so what I'll do is I'll finish off the rest of that and then show you the end result. Now that I have the panels cut out and the felt in the tracks, the next thing I'm going to install is the weather stripping that goes around the perimeter. Now I picked up these from AH Spares, as they are I have the original weather shields design. The ones that Moss Motors sell don't fit these original frames, and it mentions it right on their website. I'll put a link to these in the description below. Around the perimeter of the gasket here, you'll see there's kind of a T-shaped, T-shaped section. And that fits into the slot that runs across the top of the frame. And the idea is to get that T into there all the way around, and that's what holds the gasket into place. So I'm going to use my trusty curved pick to get that into place. Obviously, I'm not going to use the pointy end. I'll just use the curved part as much as possible. Try and avoid poking a hole in the gasket. What I thought I'd do is just show you a quick idea of how that gasket works around the perimeter. There's a T-shape molded into the rubber. There's a corresponding spot around the perimeter of the frame. To get the gasket into that slot, I just started one side of it and got that in there. That was pretty easy to do. And then worked this side of it in to the remainder of the slot with the round edge of the pick I was using. And this is the end result. I'm just laying around the gasket around the perimeter here, and I'm going to be using silicone spray to spray into the slot to help things slide in there quite a bit easier, or that's the theory at least. And so I'll just get that slot filled with the silicone and get the one part of the T into the back of the slot. Grab my pick, and using the round edge of it, start pushing in the other edge of that T-shaped molding. It does take a bit of finagling to get it in there, and I'm using my thumb on my left hand there just to hold things into place and making sure it doesn't come out on the bottom. And just start working my way across the bottom of the window frame. Well, it took about 45 minutes or so, but I did get the weather stripping in. So the way I would recommend doing this is get the bottom piece in, get both these bottom corners in place, and then get this corner in place, and then do this stretch across the top and down here last. What I did initially is I put this bottom piece in, then this piece, and then started working my way across here. And by the time I got to here, this had stretched a bit. So I had about 1/2 inch of this part here sticking down. What I did to correct that is I just pulled it, the stripping back off again, and then started from this corner, and I was able to kind of compensate for that stretching as I went around. So as you can see, it's on there nice now. This corner is still a little wonky. I'll maybe have to play with that one. But all in all, I'm quite pleased with how that has gone on. So now these are ready for the sliding panel, or for the panels. Now, one thing I do need to do before I install the panels, if you can see on the original one here, there's a spot here and a spot here where there were little acrylic knobs, if you like. They're just a little 1 by 1/2 inch piece of acrylic glued on to the sliding part. This one is on the outside, and then this one, where you can see the mark here, is on the inside, and that just gives you something to grab onto to slide these panels. So what I'll do is I'll mark, well, actually I have marked the location. That's the inside one, and then I'll just replicate this on the outside. So then I will glue on a little piece of acrylic for the knobs on that. Now I've experimented a little bit with a couple of different glues. This one is glued on with Gorilla Glue, and this one here is glued on with super glue. So I think I like the Gorilla Glue version better. Looks a lot cleaner. So that's what I'm going to use for that. Okay, I'm ready to glue the first of these little tabs on. I've cut 4 of them up, and I just polished the edges like I did the main panel. And so I've taken the paper off the one side. And then also, well, I messed up the first time. I peeled off the paper where the tab is going to go, and I can see the mark from the other side. And I messed up on this one, so I had to put some tape back on. And then you can see here where that tab is going to go. So I'm just going to get my Gorilla Glue out, and I'll glue that on there, and I'll clamp it for a little while, and then we'll see how it turns out. So I have the first of the 2 tabs glued into place, and I'm just using clear Gorilla Glue, and I'll put a link to this in the description below. I have it clamped. I've checked the position to make sure it's perpendicular to this bottom edge, and yeah, so we'll let that set up for a while before we glue the next one on. And in the meantime, I'm going to get the brackets out and get them attached to the frame. So here are the refinished brackets and the cleaned up hardware. And what I'm going to do is put them in with these little acorn nuts on the inside. I'm just going to put them loosely onto the frame, and then I'll take this over to the door, mount it on, and then tighten the brackets, or then tighten the screws for each of the brackets. I had to have the brackets loosely mounted on the frame. And so I'll just take this over to the door. Now I have already loosened the thumb screws, one there and one there. We'll come around and on this side of the door. So the clamps, let's open the door a bit more. So that bracket goes into that thumb screw there, and that bracket goes into that one there. So I'll tighten those down. Now I'll close the door and see that this is into place pretty good there. So now I've got that figured out. I will tighten up all these screws, and that is good to go. And there's the frame mounted to the door. All that's left now is to put the plexiglass panels in, and I can call that one done. So the little tabs are glued onto the sliding part. That's the one for the outside, and there's the one for the inside. This one turned out really good. This one has a little bit of hazing inside, but I'm not overly concerned about that. So next up is going to get it inside the frame. So I'll turn the frame over. I've already taken the paper off the inside of the fixed panel. So now the idea is here, I'll take the paper off the outside of the sliding panel, slide it into the pot socket, and then I will basically just do, the best way to describe it, just kind of bend it to fit it underneath the top of the frame, and then that'll fit into the channel where I put all the felt in just a little bit earlier. And then I'll take the paper off both sides and the job will be done. Okay, so I'm just going to get the paper peeled off the outside face of the sliding one. There we go, that's that one off. And I'll just peel up the top and bottom edges. So there we go, that's ready to slide in. I'm going to slide it into the bottom track first because it's got a wide flange here. So that's into there. A bit of something stuck on there. And I'm just going to pry this down. I can do this without breaking it. There's a, right in there, I think, is the... This may take a little finagling to get in there. There we go. There we go. And that is in place in there. So I'm going to pull the rest of the paper off and my masking tape. And pull the paper off the fixed panel. And there we have the finished product. It's got the tab on the outside. There's a little bit hazy in there, but the inside tab looked really nice. So use that to slide it. And there we go. Now that one's all done. And I'll just repeat the whole process on the left-hand side panel and we'll be good to go. Well, there we go. I've got both of the side curtains done. There's the one on the left-hand side, and you can see the one on the right-hand side. And I'm very happy with how those have turned out. So I'm going to call that a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to share it with your friends. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget that little bell icon. Click on that, and you'll get notified when the next video comes out. If you'd like to get a hold of me directly, you can do so at the email address I'll put at the bottom of the screen. And I'll have that in the video description below as well. So thanks for joining me. My name is Ian. This is the Econobox Garage. We'll see you next time.